Hey, welcome back everyone. In the last episode, we created our camera to have our menu rotate around a certain place in our level. Now, as you can see, when we start, we can use the mouse, but if you try to use a controller, that's doing absolutely nothing. So we're going to set up the gamepad so we can select some option with our gamepad instead of using the mouse, and after that, playing with the controller, okay? That will be a little bit a long video because it takes a little bit of time. So we're going to jump right in our main menu and we shall have something around this. So all our previous settings are still there. We're going to zoom here on the event construct. As you can see, when we start the level, we play the animation of the menu to fade in. So now what I want to do is basically creating a way from this point here that we can, every time we do move the left stick on our gamepad, it's going to also translate that to our menu to be able to move up and down. From that, we're going to start and we're going to set a timer by event. If you're wondering why you set a timer by event, well, it's that if you do that from the event tick for a main menu, it's going to be trigger every frame, but I don't want to trigger that every frame just to save some resources and things like this. I think that it's way too fast refreshing every frame if the player have put an input to the gamepad. So by doing a timer by event, we can slower that refresh rate, saving some performance for our computer, and it's gonna work pretty much very similarly. So we're gonna drag from that and we're gonna set the timer by event that we have right here. From the timer by event here, we're going to drag for the return value here, and we're going to promote that to a variable. And this variable, which represent our timer by event, we're going to rename it, specify the name of this timer by event. So we're going to search timer, we're going to write timer by event. There we go. Now it's representing this, so it's a little bit easier to remember it is doing for us. So from the event here, we're just going to drag and we're going to create a custom event. From this custom event, it's where we're going to control our joystick for our gamepad. So we're going to do slower. We're going to name that slower event tick, right? As I said, not tick, but tick. We're going to remove the H. There we go. So instead of having that every frame, because every frame is around, I'm not too sure exactly of the number, but I think it's something around this. So it's really fast. So we're going to change the number to 0.1. So every 0.1 second, it's going to trigger this event and see if we have input any order to our gamepad. So that way our menu will work. Okay. So from this now, we're going to drag from the slower event tick. We're going to search for a sequence, right? We don't want this sequence. No, I'm kidding. We need this sequence. So we're going to add a little bit more pin to it. We need 4 pins in total. From the first one here, what we're going to do is that every time we're going to put an input or joystick to go up or down our menu, we need to know from the start where we are in that menu. Okay, so I'm going to drag from then here, and I'm going to search for the do once node. It's maybe mean nothing for now, but later on you're gonna see exactly what I mean. So it's gonna be the first thing that we're gonna put in then 0 here. So we're just gonna select all of that, put a comment on this, and I'm gonna write that it's gonna highlight the default value on the switch. It's maybe mean nothing for now, but we're gonna have a switch here that's gonna tell us every time we press what we have to do. Okay, just follow along for now, and later you will understand exactly why I put that up here. From this point here, we're going to drag from den 1, and we're going to go through a branch. And from this branch, we're going to search for a little delay, and we can leave that at 0.2. That's perfectly fine. From the branch here, we're going to search for greater. There you go, like this, not equal, just the greater. And from here we need our player controller. If we're going to get player controller, from the player controller is going to give us access to, if we have input a command or input an action to our gamepad, if I shall say so, drag from the get player controller, and from that you will be able to get input, but we want the input for the analog stick, which is this one here. I'm going to select that. Now with that, it's going to give us the possibility to select which joystick we want to control our menu with. Well, we're going to use the left stick because usually we use the left stick in menu. We only want the y-axis because we want the up and down. We don't care about the left and right. If your menu is left and right, well, you're going to select this one here. Otherwise, you're going to select this one if you have been following from the beginning. So we're going to put that right up here. And we're going to put 0.7. So the only reason why I put 0.7, you can put the number you want, but basically this is the dead zone. We don't want as soon as you touch the joystick that it's moving. You will need to put a certain movement to the joystick to go up and down your menu. Because sometimes some joystick has some, input in it already, like 0.2 or something, and it's dragging slowly your joystick around. So if you have a problem with your controller, by doing this, it's not going to trigger the menu each time. So from that, we're going to continue our code right here. We're going to do there. We're going to go back to a branch. No worries. I'm going to explain the code when we're done here, but just for now, just try to follow along. It's going to be a little bit easier. So from the condition here, we're going to do a great, not great, but greater. And we need a button index. So our button index will represent, if I go back to our menu, those buttons here. So we have 4 buttons, so we need a button index to calculate each time we're going to play up or down. We're going to, click up and down our joystick. It's going to tell the game that it's changing the index. So if the index go minus, it's going to go down. If it's go up, it's going to go back up. Okay. So from that, we're just going to create a new variable. So we can go on the side here of our panel and just click variable, and we can call that button index. We're going to change it for an integer, right? Because the index is going to be 0, 1, 2, 3, and this is round number, which is 1, 2, 3. So we don't want anything else. We don't want a float. We want exactly the integer. We're going to take that index here, and we're going to plug this right up here. We're going to leave the number as 0 for now, and we should be fine. So from that here, we're just going to move a little bit aside. We're going to take our button index. We're going to put it to true. From that, we're going to drag, and we're going to search for minus, which is going to give us the subtraction. And from that, we want to plug back the button index right here. And we're going to change the value here to 1. So what it's doing for us, this little code here, is every time we're going to click on the joystick or left joystick to go up on the joystick, is going to change the value of the index here. So now it's at 0, it's going to be 1, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and so on until you tell the game there's no more index. Okay? And if it's false, we're going to set our index. So we can take the button index, drag it right here, and it's going to be 3. This number represents the amount of button you have here, which is 0, 1, 2, and 3. It's why we put this number. If you have more, you're going to have to change this number. So we're going to select all of that. I'm going to put a little comment on this, and this is going to be the left stick up. So every time we press up, it's going to fire this code. Now we want to repeat the same process for when we click down. So when we move the joystick down. So just to save some time, we can take all of that, then copy, and paste it down here. You can do that by Control C and Control V, or just selecting everything and do Control W. We're going to plug this right to the den number 2, which is up here. And we need to make sure that we take the Y here and put it right there. But this time we have to change the value here because we're going down. So we're going to change this little node here, and we're going to drag from it, and we're going to search for less, right? And we're going to plug it right there, and we're just going to drag back to stick Y. The value that we have to put here, we're just going to reverse this like this. So the value that we're going to put here is going to be minus 0.7, which is the number right here, but just for going down. So we're going to change the name here just to make sure we know it's going down. Code will remain very, very similar. Same thing here. Instead of greater, we need to put less. So we're going to remove that. We're going to search for less. And we're going to take our index and put it right up here. This number will be 3, which represent, once again, 0, 1, 2, 3. So we have 3 number here, and we have 4 button, but the number we have to put is 3 because it's count from 0 to 3, which means 4. Okay, just keep that in mind. And here, same again, instead of minus, we're going to replace this by plus. So we can just add, and we're going to take once our index, put it back here, and change the number to 1. There we go. And this will change to index 0. There we go. So now we're starting to see some action, not really action, but we have our stick set up. So every time we move up or down, it's going to change our index to reflect where we are here. Okay. So we're going to move a little bit on the side here. It's where it gets a little bit confusing, but we'll try to make that a little bit easy to understand. So search for a switch. I'm going to search for a switch on an integer because we use integer here. So we need a switch that's going to be able to deal with that. So we're going to take our button index. We're going to put it right there because every time we want our button index, we want this to make sure it's changing at the same time. We're going to take top here for our left stick up. We're going to plug it to our index. We're going to also plug the set index there. I'm going to repeat the same process for the stick down. So now we have almost all. We need to make sure that we don't forget our do once here. We're going to take our do once and go up here. There we go. Or down here if you prefer. So from that, we have the default. We're going to add some pin. We need 3 pins. We're going to move back this. There we go. 3 pins. So every time we click on our button, basically it's going to change the color of this button, which is going to help us to know exactly where we are here. Because if we leave it as is, yes, it's going to go up and down, but we're going to have no cue visually to know where we are. So we're doing the cue basically to have our button reflect this. When we move the mouse, it's become red like this. So we want something that's doing exactly that. We're going to take our button because we have a couple of buttons here. So we're going to drag from 0 here. Actually, let me just think about that for a second. Okay, so what we need to create a new variable first. So we're going to click on plus. And this variable will be called button for background. It's going to be color selected. I know it's a long name. And we're going to search for a linear color, which is this one here. We're going to duplicate this just by right clicking and duplicate. And we're going to change by selected to unselected. I'm going to put cap here. There we go. So now we have our 2 buttons for the color. So we're gonna take the first one, which is our button selected. I'm gonna put it down here. So from that, now we should be able to drag and search for set our background. And we want to set the background color of our button, which is the first button that we have up here. If we click on it, it's say new game button 0, button 1, button 2, and button 3. Okay. So we're going to go back and we're going to take our new game button, which should be right here in our menu. If you don't see it, whoops, if you don't see it, it's maybe because it's not as a variable. So make sure this is checked if you want that to show up here. So we're going to take our new game button, just drag it, drop right there. So from the new game button, we can set our background color. And we're going to take the first one here, as you can see. And we're going to drag and put it down here. So the background color we want to do as well is going to be from the one that is selected here. Okay. So we're just going to take that and plug it right up here. I'm going to repeat the same process for each button that we have. So we can just copy this a couple of times. Because we have 4 buttons, we need 4 color change. We have new game button. The next one is our control button. So we're going to take control button, put it right up here for the target. After that, we have our erase button that we're going to put up here. And finally, we have our quit button, which is this one here. Now we need to make sure that it's plugged correctly. So this one will go here, this one will go there, and this one will go here. And the default one, when we start, I want to be the middle one. I want to be this one. So when it's going to start, the color will be on control instead of new game. So you put the default one on where you want your joystick to start. And it's exactly why I put the do once here. As soon as the timer by event will trigger, it's going to go to this one first. It's going to say do once. Do once is going to do what? It's going to select this, which is the default here, which is this one. So as soon as it's going to start creating the menu, it's going to set up the color to the number 1 here, which is our control button. Because if you don't do that once, nothing's going to show up on the screen until the player moves at least once the joystick. Okay. So from that here, we need to make sure that our button selected is connected to each of them. So now we're good with that. Now we're going to repeat the same process, but this time, instead of having like new game 1, new game 2, 3, and 4, I mean, sorry, I'm going to rephrase that. So instead of having new game here, control there, every time that we are on this one, we need to make sure that the color is unselected. Okay, so we're going to take our unselected color and we're going to put it right here. Whoops, not this one. Just do a get. The reason is that if we don't unselect the color that we decided to put, basically all the key will be red. Okay, by telling the game that we are on this one, it's going to unselect the color for those one here to put it back to neutral. If you select this one, it's going to remove the color for this one, and this one, but not this one. That's why we have a unselected color here. It's maybe not very clear, but when you're going to see it in action, you will understand what I mean. So we have the button here for our new game. So we want the control, so we can take our control, put it there, do a get. We also want our erase game button, so we're going to take erase game button, put it there. And also we need the quit button, which is this one here. Okay, so every time we're going to be on new game. We're going to unselect the color for those 3 buttons. So we can drag, we can take the set background here, just copy it there. We're going to need it 4 more times. There we go, 4 in total. The target will be all those buttons. And I'm going to plug that right here. And the background color will be the unselected color. I'm going to repeat the same process for the other one, but each time we're going to make sure that we're not taking the one we're referring to. So we can copy, or we're just going to do it manually. So first, we're just going to connect all of them. There we go. So now we're going to connect unselect to each of them. We don't need the control one, so we need the new game one. We need the erase one. And we need the quit button. There we go. You see that each time we're not including the one that is connected to it. We're going to repeat the same process for erase. So what we want from erase, well, we want our new game button. So I'm going to put the new game. We also need our control. And we do need our quit. Same process once again. So this time we need the new game button. We need the control. We need our erase one. There we go. But we don't need the quit one. So if we double check, we are on new game. We have all the other buttons except new game. We're on control. We have all the button instead of control. Erase button here. Everything else instead of erase button, and quit. No quit. It's exactly what we wanted. From that here, we can just drag and play a sound. Can do a sound 2D, that's perfectly fine. Just going to connect all of that. There we go. The sound we want to play, well, is depending on what you want as a sound each time you move. But I want to play the duckable sound window. So I'm going to take this one here. Is it this one? Let me confirm. Yeah, it's going to be the drop duckable that I want. So this one here. So every time we can go to it and just play a sound. Every time we're going to up and down, it's going to play this sound. Okay, perfect. So from that, I think we should be fine. We have all our setup. So just to go back again, just make sure we get it through. Going to compile and save first. When we start creating the menu for us, it's going to fade in our menu with that little animation. After that, it's going to go through this line here. It's going to set our timer by event every 0.1 second. Right, as you can see here, there's a little mistake. We need to make sure that this is looping, so it's always triggering every 0.1 second. It's going to call this slow event tick, which is going to go to den 1, which is right here, all the way down to the switch in, which is referred to the default one, and it's going to set the color to our control button, which represent this one here. So it's going to be like this when we start the game. If you have selected the first one, it's going to start up here. So we're going back here. So after that is going to confirm if we have an input that is greater than 0.7 on our left stick from our player controller. It's going to wait 0.2 seconds. And from that 0.2 second, it's going to go through this branch here. And it's going to check if it's greater than 0. Right? If it's true, that is greater than 0, is going to go to this one here, which is going to trigger one of those buttons, depending on where we are here. Okay. If, for an example, because this one is going up, we're right here and we click up, instead of not going there, it's going to go back here. Okay. The reason why it's going back here is because of this here. So if it's false, it's going to set our button. So basically, every time we go up, it's doing minus, so we go up here. When we're on the top, on the first one here, if we click up again, we don't want the color to stay here, we want the color to jump back down here. So by doing this code here, when we are at number 3, it's gonna go, which is this one here. I mean, if we're number 1, if we're up here, it's gonna go back to number 3. Okay. Same thing occur here when we go down. We're checking if the joystick is pushed at least minus 0.7. If it's true, it's gonna go to our delay here, go to the branch, and it's gonna check if it's greater than 3, right? The 3 which represent this one here. Right? If it's greater than 3, you know, it's mean that we're going down or up, depending on which key we're pressing, obviously. But this one is the opposite. This one here is the opposite on this one here. Same thing apply. If we're down here and we click down again, it's going to bring us back to up here, which is 0. It's exactly what we put right here, right? Because this will always go to 0, 1, 2, 3, no further than this. So if we're further than this, it means it's going to reset to 0. It's because we're going down, which means that we're right here. And by pressing one more time, it's going to not be true, it's going to be false, and it's going to reset our button index to 0, which is this one here. Okay. So we're going through this, all is connected to our switch. So each time we go up or down, if we're in the main menu, I mean in the new game, it's going to set the color of new game, and it's going to unset all the other color for all the other button to normal color. Same process apply for control, erase, and quit. Okay. And each time it's going to play a sound for us. So if we compile this and try it out, and let's see if it's worked for us. So we have play here. As you can see, you can hear the mouse going up and down. And if you use your joystick, you can hear the sound as well, but there is nothing here. So we just have to set up the color for this here. It should be very straightforward to set up the color for that. So if we go all the way down here, we have our color for the background color. Me, I want it to be red. So I'm going to select OK. But I want all of it to be red. So I'm going to make sure that it's at 1. So now all the button is red. And when it's the default one, this one here, same process applies. So we're going to select this one and which color we want. Well, we want the default color, which is going to be white. And make sure that we change the alpha for white as well. So we have a full bottom white. So when we do play now, you can see that we have red. See what I mean when I move? The first one here stay red, but those one changing color because I use the mouse. If I use the joystick, you can see I'm going down with the joystick, and when I'm down again, let's go down or go up. So you see that the control for a joystick work very, very great, at least to go up and down. But if we click, you can see that it's doing nothing to select our control. Okay, but you see that it's going up or down, which is exactly what we want. So with that out of the way, we're just going to select all of it. I'm going to do a comment by pressing C. And I'm just going to put a little comment so we remember what this is doing. So when selected, default the button background color to our red that we put, and unselect the other button to default color. Okay, so we're good with that. So you can see that the go up and down in the menu for our joystick is working very, very good for us. So we're going to select all of that, and we're just going to push it up here just to give us a little bit more space. So now what we need to do is when we go up and down on our menu, we need to be able to click to access which button we want to go. Very simple once again. So we're going to do a custom event, right? Just down here under your joystick, we can search for custom event. We're going to call this custom event button press. So every time we press on that custom event, it's going to do this. So we're going to do a branch and connect it right there. So from the condition here, very, very simple. We're going to search for is input key down, which is going to refer to our controller. But to get access to this, we need first to get our player controller. From the player controller here, if we drag from the return value, we should have access to is input key down. And we're going to plug this right to our branch here. So it's checking for us if the key is down. Which key we're looking, well, it's depending which key you want your menu to work with. I'm using an Xbox controller, so I want the A key to be pressed. The A key represents the face down button on the gamepad. So we're going to click on it. We're going to go to our gamepad. There's a lot of key here. It's all the key that you can use for your controller. So we want the face button down, which is this one here. So this one represents A, this one represents B, this one represents X, and this one represents Y. So if you have, PlayStation controller, well, the button one will be X, right? And so on and so forth. So I'm going to select the button down. I'm going to select this one here. Same thing again. We're going to copy and paste that down here once more. Target will be our player controller. And this time we're going to put the same key once again. Let me see, make sure that I do it right. Sorry, not the same key. So this one will be bottom down, but the first one will be button right, I believe. Yes, this one here. So the reason why I have two is that the menu, when we click, I want to be able to be selected by one of those two. But commonly speaking, when player use menu, they usually press A or X, depending on which controller you're using. For this case, using Xbox. So most of the player will click A to select something, but when they want to go back, usually people press B on the gamepad to go back. So by doing this here, it's going to verify that we have our two key. If one of those two key is pressed, it's going to action the code that we're going to do here. So from the return value here, we're going to search OR. We're going to take the OR boolean. So the first one will be connected to this return value here, and this one to this one. So it's going to check one or the other, and this one will be to our condition right here. So every time we press, are we pressing down, or are we pressing, are we pressing button right, or are we pressing button down? From the true here, we're just going to drag, we're going to search for switch on integer once more. We're going to take our button index that we created earlier, because our button index will say, hey, we are at this button or this button, which will be used here. Once more, we're going to add all our buttons. So we have 4 buttons in the game. Same thing, we're gonna drag from that, we're gonna do a play sound. So just search for play sound, we'll take the 2D, that's perfectly, we're gonna do that a couple more times for each of our buttons. So we're gonna connect that like this. The sound we want to play well is depending on what sound you want. So for me, I'm gonna take the VR click sound, and I think it's this one. That would be perfect. I'll take that, and I'm just gonna browse to it to have it selected. So when I go back to my menu, I can just click the back arrow here to put it automatically in each of them. So we're gonna take our button, which we have here. So new game button will be right here. So we're gonna do a set for our new game button. I mean, not a set, but we're gonna do, let me check here, make sure I do it correctly. We have our new game button here that we did at the beginning, so we're gonna refer to those buttons here. So we want the new game button. We're gonna search and new game button. There we go. Now it's gonna be our control. Should be, is it control button? Let me check. Control button. We're gonna drag controls btn. This one should be our erase button. So erase button. And this one should be our quit button. Here we go. So now what it's doing for us? Well, each time we press one of those 2 keys on our gamepad, reference to our index where we are, it's gonna play the sound each time. Okay, I'm gonna compile that. So if we try this out, it should work pretty good for us. So we're gonna do play. We have our mouse here, so we're gonna use the joystick. So we are under new game control when we use, so it's still working perfectly. We're gonna press A, and you can see that when we press, it's doing absolutely nothing for us, so it's not selecting the control menu. But when we do it with the mouse, we have no problem at all. So we just have to set up a little something that I probably forget somewhere. Not I probably, I forget something somewhere. So let me just double check. Yeah, exactly. I found the problem. So right here on Dem 3, I knew I forget it to put it somewhere. We're gonna reference to this button press here. So just button press. There you go, right here. Just do a little bit of space. Make that pretty. Here we go. So now, as soon as we start, the event tick will trigger this, which is this one here, and verify if we are pressing something or not. If we do, it's going to go through this code. If we don't, it's going to do nothing. So let's try that once more. We have our control here. If we press A, go here, you can see here, you can hear the menu in the back, right? It's because we used an event tick. And this event tick that we created, which is our set timer, it's not cancelled when we change menu. So basically, if I move, I can select other stuff in the back. You see, it's not what we want. So we have to find a way to cancel this event tick. You could use the normal event ticks, as I said in the beginning, but I found it's taking so much resources for nothing, but it's a little bit easier to do. But with that out of the way, we see that our menu is working very, very well. Almost very, very well. Just some touch up to do. So first, we're just going to take all of that, do a control. And I'm going to call that our button action when pressed. And I'm going to put that right down here. Okay. So we're going to compile this. I think we're good for that, all set up and ready to go for the next step, which is we're gonna go down here on all our buttons, right? So when the button is pressed, it's going to new game and going to control, erase, and quit. So from there, we have to add a little bit more code to it. So from the control, which is this line here, I'm going to go all the way down here, just expand the comment here. And we're going to do a clear event by timer. We're going to take our timer by event that we created earlier, which referred to, let me go and show you, to this one here, because we want to cancel this timer. Okay. We want to cancel the timer because we don't want to be able to move the menu when we are in another menu. So by using the timer by event right here, and do clear timer here, every time we are clicking on control to access the control widget, it's going to clear our timer by event, which is up here. So it's not going to trigger that each time. Going to repeat the same process for the other key. So we can just take that and just copy and paste it down here. And we'll all go with that. And same thing with the, is it, let me check here. No, actually, I think we're good. We don't need to do it for quit because we quit the game. So now if we try that again, we can move with the stick. If we select control and we move up and down, you can see there is no more sound saying that we're controlling the menu here because we have cleared the handle. So this, it's out of the way, so it's working good for us. We're going to delete. Same thing, but you go see here, if we go up and down, it's not working because the code is not in this one as well. Well, it's going to be very easy to set up for the erase prompt because basically we already have the code done for us. So what we're going to do, we're just going to take all the code here. Let me all the code here. I'm going to Control C to copy it. Go to your erase prompt widget, which is this one here. I'm going to go under the graph. And we're just going to go up here and paste it right down here. We'll say we're going to do nothing for that. I'm going to do confirm. There we go. So we have our event construct that we have here. So we need to take that event construct, go all the way down, and plug it back up here. All right. If we do a compile, it's going to do a lot of error. No big deal because we don't have it created. So we'll just right click here, create a variable, compile, one error less. Button press, it's because it's here, but doesn't access it. We need to exit this one. So we're going to remove that and just do it again. So button press, which is right there. We compile. We have one error fix. Same thing, the button index here. We're going to need to change that. So we're going to first, we need to create a variable for button index. So just create and compile. It's fixing a lot of error for us. That's pretty good. We have all those one to fix, but we're going to do that first. So from the left stick up, we have 0, but we're not going to set anything here. So we're just going to remove it. And it's going to stay the same here. We're going to go to left stick down. And same thing, we're going to remove the default one. And everything else will stay the same. Yes, this is going to need to be 1. And this one will be 0. The only reason why is because we have only 0 and 1 for button. So we have to change the index here. Okay. I'm going to compile that. Now we're going to move for our color. Well, we need to do the color. So just create a variable. Same again, we have to set up our color. Just compile, go down. The first color was red. So we're going to put red with the alpha And same thing with the background color, it was white with the alpha. So now we're all set for that. So if we compile, we have less error. We can see we have all our previous button, but we don't need that because we only have 2 buttons to select, right? So what we can do, we're gonna take 2 here and remove because we only need those 1 here. So we can take that, just put it back down here. Well, the first is not new game button. The first is our erase button, and the second one is our no button. So we're gonna take our erase button, replace it right here. I'm gonna take our no button and replace it right here. I just want to confirm this one is back button. Okay, perfect. So we're all good with that. So here we just have to do breathers, so we can remove all those one because we don't need it. And we have the no button here, so we take our no button, put it there, and we take our erase button and put it there. And if we do compile, we have less error, so this is set up for us. We have to go down here, and when we press, well, when we press, basically we don't need all of that because we only have 2 buttons, so we're going to remove 2 of them. Right, put that down here. So this remain the same. This will remain the same, but the target for our button will change. Right, so as you can see here, the first one is our erase button and the back button, and the no button, sorry. So we're gonna go to our erase button for here. We're gonna search for erase button, and this one will be our no button. I'm gonna compile. Now you can see we have no more error. So we just had to do a little modification, so we don't need that. We can remove it. So you can see it's similar to the other code, but we have less nodes because we only have 2. So work at the same. Here we don't even need the, if I'm right, we don't even need the do once. Well, actually we can leave it there. I think that's fine because I want to start on this one and not this one that you click by mistake. So we're gonna start on this one. That's why I have this one here actually. So I think we're good with that. So we can, I think, almost try it out. The only thing I believe we need, let me just double check my notes here. Yeah, so from the press button, if it's false, we're gonna drag to a branch. We're gonna take the key down, which is gonna be the right button. Is this one here that I want. So I'm gonna take this one here, unplug that, remove the OR, plug this right there, and this one right here. Move that up here. Thing like this, it's pretty good. So if it's true, it's gonna go to this one here. So it's just a little change. So as soon as we press, right, the face button down, if it's true, it's doing this. And if it's the other one, so we press the other key, it's gonna go to this one here. So what I want here, I want to change the sound. I want another sound saying that I erase my game. So I'm gonna search for eject. I'm gonna take this one here, saying that I erase my game. Just gonna be a different sound, so it's help the player know which key they press. I think we're good with that. So we're gonna try it out. Let's play. Gonna go to with our joystick, press Control. Actually, wrong one. So we're gonna go to our delete score. You can see we can go up and down. You can see that the animation is not working when my joystick is on the top, but if I put my mouse, it's working. I wanted to fix that first before fixing all the other issue that we just saw. So let's see if we cannot fix the flashing animation. Oh, right here. There we go. So after we select all of that and play the sound, so we're going to play the sound just after. We're going to be over on erase. So we have over on erase. So we're going to go to designer tab here, or this one here. We're going to select this button. We're going to go all the way down. And we have over. On over, we're going to click on that, which bring us right here. But we want to access that as well. So we're going to take all of that. We're going to move it all the way up here. Something around that. And we're going to connect this one here. And the stop animation is going to be connected right here. But we don't need this one here, so we can remove that. And now we can play the sound. So when we have our mouse over, it's doing that. So, but I want also that when we have our button over, it's doing this animation. So if we try again, go to best score, I go with my joystick, it's now flashing. Go back there, if I use my mouse, it's doing the same. So that's working pretty good. So we fixed that first issue. And we have the issue of double the animation for our menu. So we're going to go to here for all our button here, and we're going to go all the way down. We're going to go to the back, the no button, sorry, this one here. Same thing as before, we have to clear that timer here. So we're going to take our timer by event, just get it there and clear. Now we're good with that. And I believe we needed to put it on the erase button too, which is up here. So we're going to open that a little bit more, or extend, I should say. And we'll just have to copy this and put it up here. Now it should fix some stuff for us. So compile, play, and let's try that again. Delete. So we can play here, sound, different, go back. Now we only have one menu. Go back, perfect. If we go back to delete again, I think we're good with this. So we're gonna finish that. Sorry, I think we're good with that. There's a little thing, I think it's the back button. Actually, we don't need a back button because when we click here, it's bring us back to the previous menu. So that back button is useless. So we're just gonna select it and just remove it because we don't need it. When we say no, it's bringing us back to the other one. So we're gonna go back to our graph because it's doing an error here. We can take all the back button stuff here and just remove it, compile, and put that up here. There we go. So now our menu is working with the joystick. So if we try that one more time, it should go up and down everywhere. We can go to control. We need a way or control to select this one. So we're gonna fix that. Or this one is working perfectly. That's working well. And quit menu is working perfect. The only thing we have to fix was the control one. So we're going to go to our control that we have here. We need our index to fall directly on this button. So when we click, it can go back right away. So same thing again, we're going to copy some codes that we already did before, but we can do it from scratch because it's really, really fast. We're going to go to our graph here. We have our event construct. So from the event construct, we're just going to make some space here. There you go. From the event construct, from den1, we're going to set the timer by event. Once more, the number would be 0.1, and it's going to make sure that it's loop. We're going to promote this to a variable. Going to make sure that we're renaming this to timer by event, so we know exactly what this node is doing for us. We're going to create a custom event. This custom event will be called as the other one, slower event tick. You can name this the way you want. From it, we're going to search for select. So we need the select one, which will be, I don't see it, so it's just OS and right click, left click to have access to your select. We need a button index, so we need to create a new variable. I'm gonna call that button index, and let's take integer, put it there, do a set, plug that to den1, gonna leave the number as 0. From den1 here is gonna be our button press, but we don't have it yet. So here we're gonna change the background color for our control button, which refer to not our control button, but our back button, sorry. So this button here, which is back button 0, take back button 0, put it there. Now from that we can set the background color. We don't need the linear color that we did at the beginning for the main menu that we have here. So we don't need to do those two one because we only have one background color. So that's fine. So we can put that to red right away. Set OK. Actually, there we go. Perfect. So now it's red. Now we're all good with that. There's nothing else to do. So we're just going to move that out of the way. And we're going to create another custom event. And this custom event will be button press. I'm going to zoom to it. Same as before, OB, left click to do a branch. And we're going to take our get player controller. And now we can drag from the player controller is input key down. I'm going to select that. We want it another time. So we're just going to copy, paste like this. From that, we're going to take or boolean, plug that there and plug it up here for the condition. So we're going to have our gamepad for button down, which refer to our A on our Xbox controller. And we also want the B button because I know that we're pressing that quite often as well when we want to go back. So now we have that out of the way. Very simple. We just have to drag from true, do a play sound. The sound we want to play is the same as before, which was the VR click. And I think it was this one. Yep. And from that now, when we click back, we have to call our back button function, which is this one here, which is going to bring us back to our main menu. So let's try it out, see if it's worked for us. So we have our menu here. We can go down, go to control. We already read in the bottom left corner. We press. You can see that it's not doing anything. It's because I forget, as I did a little bit earlier in the video, exactly the same thing. I don't know why I forget it all the time. So we have to call our press button right here. So we're gonna do that and call our press button. There we go. It'll take a little bit more space, so it's a little bit more clear to see. There we go. Now it should work because we're triggering our event tick. It's gonna set our background color and verify if we press. If we press, is go there. Gonna see which key we press. If it's one of those two keys, it's gonna play the sound, call the back function, which is this one here. Gonna create the menu, and we're gonna display that menu to the screen. But one more thing, as you probably remember, we have to clear that timer. Otherwise, we're going to be in the previous menu with this timer still working, and it's going to cause some issue for us. So we're going to extend this, take our timer by event, and just clear the timer. So make sure that it's not triggering in the background. Now everything should work like a charm. Let's play. We go down, control, and if we click again, let's go on back. We can go back to control and click the other key. It's working perfectly. So now we can see that our menu worked perfectly with a gamepad and work as well with the mouse. Okay. So with that, I think we're gonna be fine. Everything seems to work well. So what I'm gonna do, I'm just gonna select this and do a little comment. Call that button action when press. And same thing with this one. I'll do a comment on that, but I'm gonna write gamepad menu control select button. I think we're all good with that. So save and compile, compile and save, I should say. We all set. So we have a perfect, not perfect, but we have a menu that works with the mouse that we can select manually with the mouse without problem. And we're also able to do it with a controller, which work as good. I should say not maybe as good, but it's worked pretty good. I'm satisfied with that for now. So on this, I will catch you on the next one.
Hey, welcome back everyone. Today we are going to do our control mapping. Okay, so don't pay attention to all those action here that you can see. It will be covered inside another video. I forget to record that little part that I'm showing you right now. So it's why that there's already stuff completed. When I was compiling the video, I should say, I understand that, oh, there's something missing. So now I'm backtracking to do it, but there's a lot of the project already completed, okay? So first thing we're going to do here, we're going to click on our core, going to right click and create a new folder. This folder will be called control mapping. When this control mapping is done, we're going to create our input mapping. It's where we're going to put all our control for our character. To do that, we right click here in the content browser. We're going to input and we're going to select the input mapping context. When you select this, you're going to name it my input mapping. When it's done, you're all set. If you open it, it will not look like this one, but it's going to be very similar. All this that you can see here on the screen will be covered in the subsequent video. Okay, so just don't pay attention to that. We're going to cover that later. So now we're going to make our way to our player. Okay, so we have a folder here for our player. We're going to open our player and we're going to have something like this. So we're going to search for our event begin play. And you should have event begin play and maybe event tick and all that jazz. So we're going to go to event begin play. From event begin play, we're going to create a sequence. So by dragging here, you can search for sequence, or you can always hold S on your keyboard and left click to create a sequence, okay? When this is create, we're going to go from 0, drag, and we're going to cast to our player controller. The player controller is what we're going to use to tell the game what we want to control, what kind of control we want to use, and all that stuff, okay? So there's already one made for us, so we're going to use this one, okay? So cast to player controller, so you can drag and just search for cast player controller, and you're going to take this one here. From the object, we're going to create get controller. So drag from the object and just get controller. From the player controller here, we're going to drag from it. And we're going to search for our ancient input local player subsystem. Okay, so we're going to drag from that and just search for exactly what is on the screen here. and we're going to select this one here. So if I select that, you can see that's exactly the same. Okay. Select this, and from our player controller here, we're going to drag and we're going to search for is valid. So drag from it, search for is valid. And you can see for me, it's right here. You might not see it because you might have never used it yet. So if you don't see it, you can always uncheck that little box here. And you shall find that is valid right at the bottom here. When that it's done, we're going to drag from is valid, and we're going to drag and add our mapping context. But if you try like this, it's not going to work. Nothing is showing up. It's important that we drag from this one here. So now if we do add mapping context, it's going to be available. We're going to select this. And now from that, now we can have our mapping system. So we're going to make sure that it's connected like this. And now we can connect our is valid to this pin here. In the mapping context here, we're going to select my input mapping system that we have here. By default, you should have this one. But as we are using our own, we're going to use this one here. So you can see here, that's exactly the same name that I put here. So we're going to use this one. Now, when we select this one, when we start and we create our character for our game, as soon as the character gets created, it's the first thing it's going to do. It's going to cast to our controller, make us access to the control mapping that we define to use. So that way, all the control that we're going to put later will be accessible. Okay. So if you don't do that here from the start, you won't be able to use any of your control that we're going to put there at a later date. Okay. So that's really important, that little part. It was missing from the video. So it's added now, but now we're going to resume the video where it's supposed to be, and we're going to go from there.
Hello everyone, today we're going to work on the movement for our player. So in the last episodes we all did the menu, the camera, the turn around, so we can see it right now when we press play. It's what we had so far. We can go in the menu where we have to go, and we can obviously not start a new game yet, but all the other one are working perfectly. So today we're going to start and doing the movement for our character. So we're gonna do that very simple. So I'm gonna disregard the animation for character because that can be complicated, but obviously you can do that on your own if you have another video for animations. But I'm just gonna concentrate this video to the code to make our character move with the mouse and move with a controller. First of all, we're gonna go to our core folder and we're just going to create the player character that we need. So here I'm just gonna create a new folder and I'm just gonna call that player. I'm gonna put one just in front so I can see basically right at the start here. When I search for it, I know player is right there. So from here, we're just going to create a character class. So we can just right click and we're going to go for blueprint class. And from here, we're going to create a character class. So just click on character and I'm going to call that very simple player one. I'm going to open it. Going to make that very easy. We're just going to fill a cube right in this page here. And basically, we're going to use the mesh as a cube. So we have our mesh here. We're just going to change this and we're going to select a cube. So that way we have our cube as a character. So you can click on the mesh here and just click add. And we're going to search for a static mesh. And we're going to take a static mesh that will go right under mesh here. So we're going to keep the height and all that just to play with that. I mean, we're going to change it a little bit later on, but for now, we're just going to take the static mesh here. And by having the static mesh selected, we're just going to search here for static mesh. And we're going to search for SM cube. Just for now, I'm going to take the first one here. So now our character is that big cube. It's a little bit big here, so we're gonna change the setting to make it fit in that capsule here. So first we're going to change the location. So we're going to put -50. So just going to move that a little bit down. And we're going to put -60 here. And on the other one, move your cube like this, the way you want. If you want your cube to be a little bit further down, you can do it manually, or you can put some numbers here. So here, obviously, when you have a static mesh selected, you could change the material for the static mesh. So you could change the color and all that for this cube. I'm going to compile first, select the static mesh again. There we go. By compiling, it's giving us access to the material. So obviously, you already have some colors that are already pre-made um, from scratch from the two first-person shooter and the second-person shooter. I mean, the third-person shooter that we did add like a little bit ago from the starter pack feature here. So we can select any color we want. So we could select this one, and our cube will look like this, or we can, change pink. We can select what we like. It's not really a big deal. It's just aesthetic, so it's not gonna do anything for our code. So from here, we're going to basically go to our event graph, and here's where we're gonna start to do all our code for our gamepad and our mouse and keyboard. Okay. So we have the variable right here. So we're gonna add one variable, and we're gonna call this one gamepad. Right? It's gonna be a Boolean type. So we're gonna use this variable later on to say if the gamepad is active or not. So if the gamepad is active, it's gonna remove the mouse cursor from the screen, and if it's not active, it's gonna bring back the mouse cursor. It means that the player will play with the mouse. So it's just to make our life a little bit easier. We're going to create another variable, and we're going to call this one the right stick rotation. And we're going to change the type, and we're going to use a rotator. And we can leave all the other things by default. So by compiling, it's going to give us access to those number here. We're going to leave that at 0. So we can remove all of that. So from here, we're going to start. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to use the event tick. So we can just right click and just search for event tick. And we're going to use that to see if the gamepad is active or not. And at the same time, we're going to use to control our mouse at the same time so we can control the character with the mouse. So first, we're going to start from the event tick. We're going to do a branch. We're going to plug those two together. And we're going to take the Boolean that we created. We're going to put the gamepad right here. Put it right there. We can select those two here and press Q, so it's going to align it. It's not important, but it's look better. And from here, we're going to need custom event to calculate our mouse that we're looking, where we're looking with our mouse. Okay, really simple. I'm just going to do it right next to it. I'm going to search for custom event. I'm going to select add custom event, and I'm just going to call that mouse lookat. And from there, we're gonna search for get the actor location. Location. There we go. So we're gonna take this one here. From there, we're just gonna split all the return value, and we're going to use the X and Y because we're gonna play from the top down, so we won't be able to go up, but we're gonna be able to go left and right and up and down, not directly on the Z value, but on the other value. So this one is for going up like in the sky, and this one is just going up the map and down the map. And the X, left and right, or maybe I reversed it, no big deal. We can fix it if there is a problem here. So from the lookat, we're gonna search for set actor, and we're gonna search for the rotation, and we're gonna take this one here that is said target actor, and after that we're gonna search for find look at rotation. So we're gonna use the first one here. So we have start here. So once again, we're going to split the structure for the target and final look at, because we don't need the Z value, because we're going to only use X and Y. That's why I'm splitting in, so we can disregard the Z value. So the return value for X here, we're going to bring it to a start. And we're going to repeat the same thing for Y. And from here, we have our mouse look at. So we're going to click on mouse look at, and we need to add some input because we need a vector location and we also need a target actor. So we're going to click add here, and we're going to call the first one location, and the type will be a vector, which is going to give us access to X, Y, and Z. I'm going to add another one. This one, we're going to call it our target, and the type will be an actor. So here on the search, we're just going to search for actor, and we shall have it right here. And we need an object reference for our actor. So we're just going to select that. After that, we can compile here in the top corner, and we'll be all set. So you can see that now we have location showing on our custom event and target. We're going to take our location and just split the structure, which giving access to X, Y, and Z. As I said before, we don't use Z. So we're going to connect X with the X and the Y with the Y. And the rotation here for the new rotation, we're just going to take this one right here. And we're all done. So this will control our mouse where we look at our mouse, and our character will be rotating towards where the mouse is looking. Okay. Obviously, there's other step to make it work, but it's the gist of it for now. So we're going to go back to our tick event here. And from true, we're not going to use anything from true. So we're going to use false. So if we are not using the gamepad, it's mean that we're using the mouse. So we're going to go from false, and we're going to call our mouse look at. So which is this one right here that we just created. So from this, we're going to get our player controller. And from that, we're just going to drag from it, and we're going to get, and we need the under cursor by channel. So this one here. So the first one should be this one. So we're going to take this one. And from that, we have the return value, and we have the it result. So we can always click on the it result, and just split this, which is going to give us access to all the it result that we can have here. So the only thing we really want here, it's our location. So we're going to take location for mouse look at, and we're going to plug that right to our it result impact, which is right here. Okay, we don't need anything else from that, so we're all good with this. So now every event tick, so every frame, which is 0.0008, something around this, it's gonna check if we're using the gamepad. If we're not, it's mean that we're with the mouse. So I think we're good for that. So we can just move out here, just up, down here. And we're gonna right click, and we're gonna search for mouse XY. We're gonna take the two axes, right? Because we don't use up and down, we just use left, right, and up and down, but not to the sky. If you can see the difference here. So we're gonna take this, and once again, we're gonna take the axis, we're gonna split the value, and here it's when we're gonna decide if we show the cursor or not. Okay, so if we use a gamepad or if we're not using a gamepad. Hold B on our keyboard to do a branch. We're going to plug those two together. We can select all of it and press Q to just align. So from the X value here, we're going to search for greater, just the greater. I'm going to plug this to or. So we're going to take Boolean or, so this one right here. And from Y, same thing. We're going to search for greater, and we're going to plug it right there. And the number we're going to put here is 0.01, and the same thing with the other one. And we're going to plug this to our branch here. So if the axis value when we move our mouse or Y, it's barely moving, it's going to go to the branch. And if it's true, So if those value are more, this means that it's true. This means we're moving the mouse. We're gonna go to another branch. The other branch will confirm if we have our gamepad active. If we don't have the gamepad active, it means that we're going to have our mouse active. So we're gonna right click and just search for get our player controller. And from here, we're gonna drag from the return value and we're gonna search for show mouse cursor. So we're gonna take the set show mouse cursor and we're gonna plug this to our false right here. Okay. And I'm gonna make sure that we're checking this box. And from that, we're just gonna take our get player controller. I'm gonna set the input mode. So input mode, we're gonna select the game and UI. And we're gonna plug this together and we should be all done for that. So if we're moving our mouse, it's gonna mean that it's true. It's gonna go to the other branch and that branch will confirm if we're using the gamepad or not. If we're not using the gamepad, it's gonna show the mouse to screen and we can use that for mode and or UI for the game mode, I mean, and the UI because we're using the mouse. So we want to use the mouse on the game mode and obviously every UI that we have on the screen as well. So I believe we should be fine with this. So we can take all of that code here and just do a box around it. And basically this will be the mouse control. So mouse control. I'm just gonna zoom here so you can see. We're gonna put in bracket here, follow, follow the mouse cursor. So a little note here that we're gonna use later, because if you try this code right now and you're like, oh, I think I will be able to move my character around, it's not gonna do anything. It's not gonna work and you will think that there's something wrong in that. It's just that we have to adjust the collision of the object in our scene so we can have our character look at those objects. So the floor itself is an object. So it's mean that by changing the collision setting of the floor, it's mean that our mouse will now be able to move our character. You'll see what I mean later, but I'm gonna put here just a little something that so we remember. So just so you can see it. So mouse control, follow mouse cursor, important that the collision of the object, like the floor in the level, is set to physics actor, otherwise the mouse will not rotate the player. So we're all good with this, so we can select our command here and just click on bubble so we can see it from far out. So from that, we should be fine. Now we have our control for joystick and we're just going to do that a little bit later. So we're going to try the mouse first. Obviously, we're going to go back to, we need a level to try this actually. So we're going to have to create a level to put our character in it and just see if we can use our mouse. So we're going to go back to our main menu here. So we have this map here. So technically we could use this map or we can just duplicate this map. What you can do, you can go to file here on the top and you can save the current level, but we're going to use save current level as. By doing that, it's going to allow us to duplicate this level exactly the way it is with another name. If you try to copy paste like you do with actors or blueprints or anything down here, it's not going to work. We used to be able to do that, I believe, but now we just have to do save as. So we're going to call that map 1. Now, as you can see, same map, same thing, same jazz, but it's just say map 1 on the top here. So now from that, we should be able to have our player start. So we could put our player start, and from that, we're going to be able to use our player 1. Okay, so from here, we're just going to close all this. So we have less things in the way. And here we're going to add a player start right here. So from the search class here for place actor, we're going to search for player start. As you can see, we have it right here. We're going to put our player start right around here, as you can see here. But now if you try and play, nothing's gonna happen, right? You're just gonna have the same default camera as before. It's not what we want. It's because if you remember in one of the video, we used the world setting and we're using the game mode main menu. Remember this? So now we have to use another game mode for this map. Okay, so we're going to go to our game mode that we have right here. We have the game mode main menu. Now we want a game mode something different. We want the game mode override for our level. So we want to create another game mode. So basically, we're just gonna create another one for now. So we're gonna go to our blueprint class up here, and we have game mode. So we're just gonna take one here, and I'm just gonna call for that for now. We'll change it later because I just want to show that the character is working. I'm gonna call that wave for our map one. Whoops, map one. So now that it's created, we can go here and select the game mode for wave map one for this map. And now we have the default pound, and it's right here that we have to change for our player one. Okay, so we created a game mode. We override the game mode here by using the new one that we created that we're going to do some code later in, but not in this video. We're selecting the actor that we want to spawn, and we have our player controller here. We can always use our own controller, but for now we can leave it as is. I think everything's gonna be fine. So we can do play, and you see now we have still this here. So we need to tell the game, hey, we want the player one. So we select it here, which I believe should be fine. Or you know what? We did all that, but technically we could have just take the player. Just drop it there in the level. I don't know why I went the hard way when we could have just drop it there. Select our player here, go to our details, and make sure that we are using this character from the start. Control, I believe, or possess. Oh, here we go. Auto possess player. I was trying to find it normally, but could not. So when you type possess here, we have disable, and we can put that as player 0. So if we do play, now we have a character. You can see that character is moving with our mouse, right? But the view is not working very well. So we're going to go back to our player here, and we're just going to set up the view for our character. We have our character right here. So we're going to select player one up here, just do add, and we're going to take our spring arm. We're going to search for spring arm, and with the spring arm selected, we're going to add, and we're going to search for camera. There we go. We have it now. So we have our camera and spring arm right here. So we want to adjust our camera. So we're going to take our spring arm. Remember the line here. So we want that to be further down so we can see our character from far out. And we also want to adjust the angle. So we want to be able to see it from an angle, not that far back. So we're going to take our spring arm here, and we can change the angle here for our rotation to -50. And now the camera will point up to the sky. So we can compile. And now if we do play, now we should have our view for a character. As you can see, it's pretty fast, right? Obviously we can fix that later, but you can see that now we can control the character with the mouse. Let's go back to our character now. Yeah, the rotation is really fast. So we'll have to check why it's that fast. The camera boom, which is the spring arm, we're gonna remove all that. And we're gonna remove this as well. And compile, and let's see now. There we go. That's way better. Okay. So make sure we disable the do collision test and the camera setting, uncheck everything. Now you can see that our camera is moving all around. Okay, so we can see it's working pretty good for us. Remember what I said here at the beginning, the cursor, the collision for the object like the floor, the physics doesn't work because sometime, another project I was trying that and it was not working from the start. So I had to select, for example, the floor and had to go to collision. And here I had to change the collision preset. But we can see that now we can rotate our player, in that case, our super cube, with our mouse. So I think that's going to be this for this video. Here we go. Welcome back. Today we're going to do our control for our keyboard and our controller. So we're going to start with the keyboards. We're going to implement the A, S, D, and W to be able to move our character. So the first thing we're going to do, we're going to go to our control mapping. And here we already have our input action that we created for mapping. We're going to create two more here for input action. So you right click, input, and you do input action. First one will be named IA move left stick, and it's going to be or A and W, A and D. And the other one will be IA right stick. So it's going to be for our mouse, and obviously the other joystick for our controller. So we're going to start with the first one. So IA move left stick. We're going to double click on this. This is going to control the movement for our character. So move character for the action description. The value type will be an axis 2D, and everything else should be set by default. So we're going to be good with that. So we can save and exit this. Okay, we're going to go back here. For the other one, same thing, right click input and input action. We're going to create IA right stick move. We're going to open this and we're going to call that for the action description. It's going to be our aim stick. And same thing, the value will be axis 2D, and everything else should be done by default. And we can save and exit that. So now we can open our input action, our input mapping, and we should already have our mouse here. Now we're going to add a little bit more to be able to control our keyboard, our controller with the keyboard, and also use the controller. So we're going to start with the keyboard. So we can click here and add a new mapping because we need the left stick. So we're going to right click here for the mapping on the plus, and we're going to select our action that we just created. So we're going to select the move left stick. We're going to select this one here. And the first key that we're going to put here by clicking on the keyboard will be W. With W, we're going to add a modifier, and I'm going to click on the plus, and we're going to select the swivel input axis value, and we all set with the first one. We're going to click on the plus here once more, make sure we are under the move left stick, and it's going to be for our S, so we can just right click on the keyboard icon here and click S on our keyboard. We're just going to select the key that we want right away. And we're going to add two modifier to that. So we're going to click the plus twice. And with the first modifier will be a negate value. And the other one will be the same as W, which is the swivel input action value. Okay. As S is a negative value, it's why we put a negate value. W doesn't need that because it's a positive value. Okay, so we're gonna close that up because we're good with that. We're gonna click one more time. Now it's gonna be for A. So click on the keyboard icon, click A on your keyboard. So we're gonna have modifier here. Same thing. We're going to add one modifier, and this modifier will be a negate because A is a negative value. And we can close this one. We're gonna do that once more time. Click on the icon for our keyboard and click D on our keyboard, and this one will have no modifier because it's a positive value. So we can close that up, and we should be all set to have all our keyboard value right here. And we also need our gamepad value. Okay, so here we have our gamepad, our input action we created. We're going to click on the plus one more time. So now we can add the gamepad. The gamepad, we need to click here on none, select gamepad, and we're going to select our gamepad left stick thumbstick, the 2D axis. So we're going to select this one here. So we're going to go under modifier, click on the plus twice, and we're going to add the first modifier will be a dead zone. Okay, and the other modifier will be a scalar. So we're going to select this. So the index should be by default for our dead zone 2 and 1. So if you have any problem with your stick because it's moving by itself, or your stick has some issue with it, you can play with those values to make sure your character won't move by itself. Okay, and we have our scalar here. So the first value that we want for our scalar, first one here will be 50, and we're going to repeat the same for this one here. Okay, and we should be all set and save that. So now we have all our control for our control, so we can move our character through the level with the left stick and also the keyboard. So now that we have all that set up in our input mapping context, we're going to go to our player character. And now on our player character, we have all our control that we did previously. So we have the control for the mouse here that should be already working for us. And on the left side here, we have our input mapping that we are currently using. Okay, so we're going to go all the way down here, and we're going to select the left stick that we created. So IA, and we're going to look for the left stick. So we shall have it here. We need the first one here, the event, not the value. We need the event. I'm going to click on this. And if you set up it correctly, you should have action value here in blue. So you can right click and split the structure, which is going to give you access to X and Y. So from that, we're just going to start doing the code. So telling the game that when we press one of those keys that were previously set up, we're going to be able to move our character left, right, or up and down. Okay. So first thing here, we're going to get our controller. We need a controller rotation, which is the first one here for the pound. We're going to select this one. The return value will be broken, so we're going to split that structure. We get access to X, Y, and Z. And from that, we're going to right click here, and we're going to get the right vector. We need the right vector here, so this one right here with vector on the top. I'm going to take this one here. Now we can right click on the in road, and we can split the structure, which is going to do the same as the other one here, give us access to X, Y, and Z. So we only need to use X and Z. We can plug that in. And if we move a little bit on the side here, we can add now the movement input. So we're going to add movement input. So we shall have it right here at the bottom. So input, add movement input. Now we can connect the return value of the get right vector to our world direction. And we can plug all of those together like this. And we should be almost ready to go. So here from the action X, we're going to drag it and we're going to plug that to our value here for add movement. If we double click, we can reroute all of that just to make our code easier to read. And if we select all that, we can press C on our keyboard and do a command, and this would be our left, right, or our A and D. So if we move left and right with our controller, or A and D on our keyboard. So we're going to move a little bit on the side here. Technically, we can take all of that and just Control C and Control V on the side here, because we're going to reuse the same code. We're going to connect those two together. There we go. We should have something like this. Now we have to do a little modification, so we don't need this one. So if we hold Alt off our keyboard and just left click, we can disconnect the X. So we're just going to keep the Z value. Now, if we zoom out a little bit, we're going to be able to take the scalar value for add movement and go connect this to our Y. We can click once more to do a reroute node, just to make that a little bit easier to read, like this. And we can select all of that once more, press C on our keyboard, and this will be our forward slash backward or W and S value. Okay. So this code basically every time we press A, S, W, D or left control, it's gonna action those control and it's gonna get the rotation for those control for X and Z for the first one left and right. And it's gonna add the movement to our character so the character can move. And also if we do backward or A and S, it's gonna add the movement only on the Z value so we can go up and down. And we'll try it out. It should work for us. So we're gonna do play. And now we have our mouse. As you can see, the cube is turning all around. And if you do A, S, and W, you can see that we can move, but there's a little problem to the code here because it's only going up and down. There's no left, right. We have left and right, I mean, but we don't have up and down. So it means that there's a little issue with the code. There is something that I missed here, so we're just gonna go through that. So here, the get right vector, it's not this one. Obviously, I put the wrong one. We have to get the forward vector. Will be a little bit easier if we use the forward vector. So we're gonna take this one here. Same thing, we can right click on it and just split the structure. And we're gonna use only the Z value, plug that to the roll direction, compile, and now if we try it, we should be able to move all around our level, and we can also use the mouse, I mean, okay? So now we have the control with mouse and keyboard for our character, which is pretty great. And if we use our left stick on our controller, technically we should be able to move left and right as well. As you can see, I use my controller now. You cannot really see it, but I'm using the controller and it's working pretty good. Okay. We don't have the right stick working on the controller, but at least we have the movement now. So in the next video, we're going to do the right stick because it takes a little bit more time to set it up, and we should have full control on our player to be able to move all around the level and also aim with a mouse or with a controller. Okay, so we'll catch you on the next one. Welcome back. Now we're going to set up our right stick for our controller. In the previous video, we did the keyboard. So now we're going to do the right stick. So we shall already have our input action here with a right stick movement. We should also have that added here as well. So let me just put that down here. So I have a left stick here. We have the right stick mouse, which is right here. So we also need to add the joystick for our mouse, our gamepad, I mean. So we have the right stick mouse here. So we're going to click on the plus, and we're going to select the control. So we're going to go to gamepad and the right thumbstick to the axis. So we're going to select this, and we need to do anything else, which is great. Perfect. So we can save that. So now we said to the game that we want to use the mouse to rotate our character to be able to aim, and also the gamepad. Okay. So we're going to go to our player here. In the previous video, we did all that. So actually we can select all of that together, press C, and just put a little comment here to tell us what it's doing. So this will be our left stick or WASD movement input. So we can move that a little bit out here. Now we're gonna go our right stick. So it will be a little bit more complicated than the keyboard. Here we're gonna right click and we're going to search for our IA right stick, and we shall have right here IA right stick mouse. So we want this one with which is the event action. So we want this. I'm going to select this. Same thing. If it's set up correctly, you should have action value here in blue. Right click on this and split the structure. Just in case you don't have it, it's in your here on the right stick. You need to make sure you have an axis 2D. just in case you missed that part, because it's happening sometime. So with all that done, what we're going to do here, we're going to add movement input. So search for movement input. And we're going to select the trigger to the movement input right here. We're going to plug that like this. So from the Y here, we're just going to drag from that. I'm going to search for multiplier. And we're going to multiply by a negative value here. And we're going to go down here a little bit. So we're going to get our gamepad for right stick. So get gamepad. It's going to be our right thumbstick for Y, which is this one here. And from that, we're going to drag and search for ABS. Make sure that we get this absolutely positive value. And with that, we can drag a little bit just to move from the side. And from the ABS, we're going to search for less or equal. And the value that we're going to put here is going to be 0.3. And we're going to repeat the same process for the other gamepad. So we have the x-axis. So we're going to search for get gamepad, and we're going to get the right, but we're going to take the x-axis. So we should have y and x. Same thing, we're going to drag and search for ABS. And we're going to take greater or less. So we're going to do the same thing. You can just copy this one and plug it right here. Okay. But we should be all good with that. So from the X here on the top, I'm going to drag and we're going to search for make vector. And we can take the first one right here. The first return value will go to our roll direction right here, or our add movement input. And Y will be connected to this one here. So X go up here, and Y go, there's a little, yeah, and Y go up to the X here. Okay. And we should be all set with that. So it's starting to get shape here. So if we move a little bit on the side here, from our return value for make vector, we're going to make rotation from our axis. All right, so we're going to drag here and those two value here. So if we drag from the top one, we're going to search for n. We're going to take the n boolean. So now we can connect the two. So it's going to be one or the other. Okay, so we're going to move up here. So now from our input action, we can all be on our keyboard to the branch. I'm going to connect this to the branch, and the condition will be to our n. If it's true, we're going to set our actor rotation. And if it's false, we're going to also set our actor rotation. From the new rotation here, you can just drag and promote to a variable. And we can call that variable right stick rotation. Okay, I already have it created, I guess. But you're going to right click and name it right stick rotation. So I'm going to do that one more time. So right stick rotation. And we're going to make it plug to the first action rotation. If we move here, we're going to take our gamepad active here that we were using on the top here. So we're going to take that and just drag and drop on the arrow, and I'm going to make sure that it's deactivated. For the rotation for the actor there, a little bit similar, we're going to take our right stick, drop it on the arrow. We're going to move there on the side, and we're going to get our player controller, get player controller. From the player controller, we're just going to drag and get show mouse cursor. Going to get set show mouse cursor, plug those two together. And from the get controller, or get player controller, we're gonna set the input mode to game only. And we're gonna make sure that we get our gamepad here, drop on the arrow, and make sure we check this box here. Now we have one more thing to do. We have our right stick here that I did a mistake here in the name, so it's not rotation but rotation. So we're gonna drag that and we're gonna bring that all the way down to our make rotation from axis, which is right here. We can do a reroute node so it's a little bit easier to read. Okay, so now we should have all our control for our gamepad for right stick. So we're gonna select all that, and by clicking C we can do a little comment. I'm gonna call that right stick movement, which is our aim. Okay, so let's go through the code. So when we click on our right stick or move our right stick, it's going to trigger one of those two axes, depending if we go up on our stick or left or right. It's going to go through this code here. The value that we have here, will only triggered if our stick is pushed more than 30%. Okay, if it's less than that, you can put less. So if you have some dead zone, we already put some dead zone earlier in our control mapping, if you remember. But that is just an extra step to make sure that we don't, that we set up another kind of safety, I will say. So if you have more problem with your stick, you can play with those numbers to make sure it's not triggered by itself. Okay. So for all that, we're going to take one of the other because we don't know if we're going to press on the y-axis or the x-axis, right? And it's going to add the movement with all that calculation down here. It's going to go to the branch, going to set if the rotation, so if it's true, it's going to set the rotation for our player, and if it's not true, it's going to set the rotation to the rotation that is right here. Okay. And it's going to obviously take our player controller and show the mouse cursor. Make sure it's not showing the mouse cursor because we use the gamepad. So it's going to remove the mouse from the screen and activate our gamepad. Okay. So it's maybe a little bit fast, but basically just keep in mind that just this code here controls your right stick. If you click on the right stick, your mouse cursor will disappear from the screen. And if you move with the mouse, it's going to make that icon, so the mouse cursor, reappear on the screen. Okay, so let's see if it's works. So we can compile and save that and do play. Now we have our character. We can play with the mouse. We can play with A, S, and W. We can use the gamepad for the same thing. And you see when we move the other one, okay, it's the right stick which doesn't work exactly the way I want, but you can see that the mouse doesn't appear. And if I move the mouse back, so we play with the mouse is coming back. And if I play with the joystick, it's gone once more. Okay, so we have a little problem here to our code, so we're just gonna double check, because I didn't really double check it, I just plowed through. So we have X here, which is supposed to be connected to our Y down here, which is good. Oh, and so we have our minus here, which should be connected to our Y value here, and this to the X, which is good, and it's a minus. That's perfect. And we have our Y and X, exactly what we need. We have 0.3, 0.3. Have your right vector all the way down here. Oh, there we go. I found the problem here. And here we're going to do a double click here to do a reroute node and plug that to our set rotation on top here. So I'm just going to continue just to see if I didn't forget anything. And this sounds good. So this part was working, or showing and not showing the mouse cursor. So let's try that again. Compile. Hopefully this time it's working for us. Well, we are moving and turning at the same time, which is not bad, but it's not exactly what we need. obviously there's a little problem again. Won't be surprised, it's always like this. Oh, there you go. Add movement input here. I'm gonna remove and put 0. That's what happened when you go way too fast. I'm gonna compile and save again. There we go. Now it's working. Okay. So we can move with left stick and our right stick just rotate our character left and right. Awesome. So it's working exactly the way I want it to. So we're gonna go through that because I missed a couple of things and you may have encountered the same issue. So X will be connected to our Y for make vector. The Y on the top here will be connected to the minus and to the X. First one will be Y for thumbstick and X for thumbstick. ABS for both, less or equal to 0.3. Make vector, all the way up to our set rotation here. And plug also to set or right stick rotation, all our mouse and things. Perfect. And from the top here, make sure we don't have any number here because we had a number at the beginning. And go to branch and she'll look like this. There we go. So now if we compile that, we already tried it, but just to have some fun, you can see it's working perfectly for us. So we have our control with mouse, keyboard, and also our left stick and our right stick. So that will be this for this video. So we have our full control of our character. There's other stuff to do, but at least for now, our character can move in our level. So we'll catch you in the next one. Hello everyone. Today we're gonna do our pause menu. So we're gonna jump right into it. So first we're gonna go to our control mapping and we're gonna create a control to be able to do the press and make our pause menu appear on the screen. So we're gonna right click in our content browser under the control mapping folder and we're gonna go to our input and we're gonna create a new input action, and this input action I'm gonna call that IA underscore pause underscore menu, and we can press enter. And if you press enter again, you're gonna jump right in to your key. So the description, well, it's gonna be our menu or basically our pause menu. So pause menu, and here we want this to be triggered when pause. So when our key usually or pause, when the game is on pause, normally the keys on your keyboard doesn't work other than specific keys. So if you don't want to be able to move when you're on pause and things like this, or just a certain action, so by checking this box here, this only key will work. So it means that we're going to be able to press it again and make our menu disappear. So we're just going to click this to make it check, and we're going to go all the way down, and everything else seems good for this. So we can do a save, and now we're going to go back and we're going to go to our my input mapping action that should be under your control mapping folder. We're going to go right in this and we're going to create the mapping basically to be able to press certain key to activate our pause menu. So we're going to click on mapping because we want to add a new mapping, and this mapping we're going to select our IA pause menu. So it should be right here. So IA pause menu, we're going to select this one. And if we expand this, we have access to a key binding. So if we press directly on the keyboard here and we press P, so the P will be one of our action to press pause. Also, I'm going to add another one because usually escape is one as well. So I'm going to select escape. And also we need one for our controller. So you can click the key that you want for your controller. For myself, I'm going to click on it. I'm going to go to Gamepad and I'm going to find one. I'm going to select the special right here that I believe should be one of the middle key for the control, depending on the controller you use. So I'm going to use this one for me and it should be all set. Now we need to add a trigger. So we need to add a certain action that when we press is doing a certain thing for us. So I'm going to go to trigger, I'm going to add a trigger, and the index that I'm going to add for this is going to be when I press. So when I press, it's going to activate this. I'm going to repeat the same process for escape as well, and same thing for our gamepad, and we should be all set. Okay, so we have all our action here, so we should be good, so we can save that. The next step will be to create our pause menu. So once again, we're going to go to our UI folder here where we have all our menus. So we have our main menu here. Okay, so this is for the main menu, but this will be here for the in-game menu. So from that same thing, we're just going to create a menu here. So we're going to right click and we can basically, where it is, so user interface, and we can create a new widget blueprint. So we can click on this and we're just going to create the first one here. So user widget, and I'm going to call this one for WNB for widget blueprint, and we're going to call that pause because it's our pause menu, and we're going to jump right into it. So now we have access to our pause menu here. So very simple. In the palette here, in the search, we're going to search for a canvas panel. We're going to select this and just drag it down to our WB pause. And now we see that we have our canvas panel just appear on the screen for us. One more thing, we're going to click here and we're going to search for our background blur. So you don't need that, but obviously if you want to add a little bit more depth to your menu, you can do that. So we're going to drag that over the canvas panel and we have our blur here, and we want the blur to take the entire of the screen, so all of it. I'm going to center that to the middle. So I have it right here. So you can drag, remove the size to content, sorry, and you can drag and adjust it manually like this. Okay, and if you remove all that, you can see that now it's just very, very small, but we will like that to take the entire of our screen. All right, so we enter that to the middle, so it's right in the middle for us. We can put 0.5, just make sure it's center in the middle. And here you could basically expand it manually, or you can set some numbers here, depending on what is the size of your screen. So you could even like really go overboard with it. So depending on the size of your screen that you have. For example, it's gonna play, not play, but it's gonna be activated all there. So if you have a bigger screen, it's gonna be covered for that. Obviously, there's a lot of way to set up it uh, for a different way, but I'm just gonna leave it as is for now. So I'm just gonna put it like next to our canvas panel just so we can see it when we play in it. So we can always modify later, but just for now to see that it's working, we're gonna put it that way. After this, we're gonna select here back to our palette. We're gonna search for text, and we can just drag our text right down to our canvas panel. So we have the text right here. So it's what's gonna appear to the screen for us. So this text will be called here in the detail. We're gonna call this, it's gonna be pause text. And we're gonna anchor this to the middle of the screen because we want it right there in the middle. So now if we reset the position here, it's gonna appear right in the middle. We want that to be very center. So by putting 0.5 here in the alignment, it's gonna be right in the middle. If you check the size to content, you're gonna see that now the text will fit in the green box. As you can see now, the green box is perfect. And here under text for the content, we can type pause, right? Saying that the game is paused. We can also play with those settings here to make it a little bit bigger. So I'm going to put 96 so we can very see it when we press pause. You can also change the color here. You can put the color you want. So I'm going to put red so it's obvious. And also if you go down a little bit, you have the outline, so make it a little bit bigger, not bigger but better for the eyes to see, because now it's kind of, I don't really like the look of it, but by putting an outline, you're gonna see that now there's a black line all around our letter. And if we can put 5, so it's like more thick. You put the number you want, you can play with that. So from here now, we're gonna create a little animation for our text. So we're gonna have our text selected here. We're gonna go down to animation, and here we're gonna create a new little animation, and I'm gonna call that fade in. We're gonna click on animation, and from the animation, we are going to click on track here, and we're gonna select or pause text, or you can select the entire canvas panel if you wanted to. Yeah, I think we're just gonna select the entire panel. Why not? So we're gonna select the canvas panel here. Gonna go to animation, click on fade, click track. Now we have access to our canvas panel. I'm gonna click on this, and now we have the option to have a little plus here. So we're gonna add a track. The track we're looking for is the render opacity. I'm gonna click on this. Now we have a render opacity of 1, but I want a render opacity of 0, so I'm just gonna change the number for 0 and click enter. So now you can see that the text is still there, but is invisible for us. So we're gonna drag this to 2 seconds, and we're gonna click and add a new key. Okay, so basically you could just click here on the little plus, and you can add a new key to the timeline right here. Make sure that you have the last circle selected and put 1. Now if you move this, when you're going to press pause, it's going to do this, that little animation. Nothing crazy, but just to make it a little bit better than just snapping in when we press pause. So now with all that, we can compile, and we're all set for our pause menu. So we have pause menu is created. We have the key to activate that. Now we have to put it somewhere in our code in the game to say, hey, we want that to trigger the pause menu when we press that key. So very, very simple. We're going to go to our character blueprint because it's from the player character that we're going to be able to access our pause menu. So we have our character is dead, the pause menu won't work, and all that. So you can put it wherever you want. So I'm just going to put it in the player character here. And from there, I'm just going to go down here, and I'm going to search for the action, not the action, but the input right here. So if I type IA underscore pause, I should have access to the pause menu. We're going to select the first one here. That's the action event. We're going to click on this, and from that, we're going to drag, and I'm going to search for flip, and we're going to take a flip flop. And we have access to A, and we have access to B. So from A, when we press the key, we want to be able to create our menu. So we can create a widget blueprint. So we just type create widget. We have access to our widget. The widget is already created. It's right here, or widget blueprint pause. So we can go to the drop down menu, and we can select our widget pause here. From that, when we press P, it's going to create a widget, but now we just have to tell the game I want that to be displayed on the screen. So we're just going to do add to viewport like so. And from that, when it's added to the viewport, we want to make sure that the game is set to pause. So we're just going to set game pause, and we're going to make sure that it's checked here for pause. Okay, so we press the key, going to go to the first flip flop. Hey, gonna go to create our widget, put it on the screen, and put the game to pause. Very, very basic. When we press again, right, because flip-flop allowed us to press 2 times. Each time we press, it's gonna switch between A and B. So when we press again, we want our game to be on pause. So we're gonna search for set game pause, and this time we're gonna make sure that pause is unchecked. And we need to make sure that we remove the widget from the screen because we don't want to see it anymore. So we can drag from that return value for our widget and just search for remove from parent. Okay, we're going to connect all that together like so. And we should be all set for activating our pause menu. So we're just going to select all of that now. And press C on our keyboard just so we are getting access to put a comment, and that comment will be very simple, just or pause game. We can compile, and now compile and save, and now we have access to our pause menu right here. So we can try this out. We're going to go to our map here. We're going to press play. Now we have our character right here. Make sure that you're under the good map when you start the game, right? Because sometime maybe in the main menu level, make sure that you're loaded in the map where you can play with your character. So we have our character here. It's moving and all that. I press P. You can see that the game is paused. I cannot move my character anymore. It's not doing anything. And if I press P again, it's unpausing the game and I can continue playing. So if I press P again, you can see that the animation is not playing right away. It's snapping right away, right? The pause is working, but the animation is not. So we need to make sure that we can access that animation. So when we press, so the animation can play. So we're gonna go to our widget blueprint. So the pause that we have it here. So we have our widget blueprint right here. If you don't see your text here, you can click on the animation and just unselect fade in and from the animation, and now your pause will be shown on the screen. And if you select it again, for an example, it's gonna be disappearing. So you just unselect it so we can see what is there. We're gonna go to our graph here, and from that, when it's getting construct, so when we're creating the widget blueprint, we want to play that little animation. Okay, so we have our little fade in animation, so we can just drag and drop this on our board, and now we have access to our animation. So we can drag from that and just search for play animation. We want to play the animation forward. So we're going to select forward, make sure we connect that to our event construct. And now we're good. So the target is this blueprint, and it's going to play the animation that we created. Okay, very, very simple. Obviously, you can change the speed that you want to play the animation, but we're not going to bother with this. So we're just going to compile and save, and we're going to try this out. Go back to our map. Now we can press play, and now we still have access to our character. We can move around and all that jazz. We press P. Now you see that we have the little fade in animation, and when we press P again, the pause is disappearing. So we'll do that once more, and we can see that the animation is taking effect, and we're all good. So our pause menu is working. Obviously, you can do a better pause menu with some menus and other things, but I'm keeping that simple. But you already know how to create a menu because we already did that at the beginning of this series. So on this, I will let you go, I guess, and we'll catch you on the next video. See ya.